Most people have already settled into a career and probably haven't received any life-changing job opportunities yet. You're not the CEO of a company, you haven't invented anything that'll make you millions, and none of these things seem workable in your future. Luckily, you don't need a luxurious job title or a prestigious career to become wealthy. Most people who become millionaires on low incomes understand ideas, concepts, and formulas that school does not teach you. Number one, this is the wealth formula. This is the money you are making stacked up against the money that is being spent. You need to make more money than you're spending, right? Well, that's obvious, because if your cash flow is negative, you'll consistently fall into more debt. Let's put it this way. If your monthly income is $10,000 and your monthly expenses are $10,000, you have zero cash flow. Even though you're making over $100,000 per year, you'll probably never be able to retire. If you were able to eliminate $1,500 of those expenses, you'll then be able to use your positive cash flow to create more income for the future. The median household income in the United States is around $67,000. If you were able to save and invest 10% of your monthly income starting at age 25, you'll have around $2 million by the time you turn 60. If you were to increase that savings rate by a mere 5% annually, you would amass over a $3 million fortune within the same time frame. With every savings rate increase, you'll ultimately be buying back your time in the future and won't have to work as long because you'll be able to comfortably retire at an earlier age. Number two, you need to know exactly where you are financially at this exact moment. This will be your foundation that will guide you in the direction that you ultimately want to achieve. If your goal is to reach millionaire status by the time you are 55, here's what you need to do. Let's start from scratch. Assuming you have a net worth of $0, and if you expect to be receiving an interest rate of 8% return per year on your invested capital, at 20 years old, you should aim to save $483 per month. If you're 30 years old, you should save and invest $1,139 per month. 40 years old, $3,069 per month. And at 50 years old, you need to save and invest $14,200 per month. Notice how it increasingly gets more difficult to become a millionaire if you start later. When it comes to investing, start as early as you possibly can. $1 million may seem like a far reach if you're 20 years old, but remember, you have the most valuable asset at your disposal: time. In relation to having time, this is another important factor that most people overlook, and it's one of the biggest personal finance hacks that I've ever learned. Don't spend too much time trying to figure out how to save pennies. It's more productive to learn how to make more money. Instead of spending time focusing on how to save an additional $50 or $100 per month, use this focus and energy into figuring out ways to make an additional $10,000. I don't track every expense. Most rich people don't. Every month I have money coming into my checking account. I have a set amount that is automatically transferred into a savings and a brokerage account. I also have money transferred into another account that is used for my typical living expenses. This method helps me in knowing exactly how much money I am spending monthly. This allows me to set spending limits for categories such as dining out, traveling, and entertainment costs. The amount of money I have left over in my checking account can be used to transfer to my savings or investment accounts. This is the exact process that the wealthy do. I've been copying this process for years, and certainly you can as well. Remember to keep things simple. If you try tracking every little expense, you'll just make the entire process more difficult than it needs to be. Number three, in many of the finance books and articles that I've read, I've learned that a majority of people who become millionaires are self-made. They were able to get this way all on their own. Nearly all millionaires don't reach this financial goal from a full-time job alone. Almost every millionaire has multiple sources of income. This is basically mandatory because it relieves you from being dependent on one source of income. If your only source of making money is your full-time job, this puts you at a major risk. Imagine if you were to get fired, you would have no other source of income needed to survive. You can always look for ways to reduce your expenses, but if you go down this route, you'll always have a limit on the amount of money you can earn. Instead of looking for another job or working extra hours, do what myself and everyone on Finance YouTube recommends. Start a side hustle. This is a great way to make extra money. Even if you're making just an additional $100 per week, this will allow for way more flexibility in your finances. And the great thing about side hustles is that there is no limit to the amount of money you can earn. It will require you working more hours when first getting started, but the end results will surely be worth it. Think about it this way. Either you work hard right now, or your life will be harder later. The choice is yours. One of my favorite finance books, The Richest Man in Babylon, has taught me a lot of valuable lessons about investing and money. But a lesson that really stood out to me that I learned while reading this book is guard thy treasures from loss. Avoid investments that sound too good to be true. Everyone knows that you should invest to have your money make more money and so on, but it's important that you do this correctly. You can be the hardest working person and make tons of money, but if you don't know how to properly invest and protect your wealth, you'll likely never achieve financial freedom. Warren Buffett, for example, he has over a $200 billion net worth. He is an investor for who his whole life has focused on a company's fundamentals in order to determine its true value and whether it would make a sound investment or not. Even though some of his investments are believed to be boring companies like Coca-Cola, it's these types of companies that have helped his wealth exponentially grow over the past few decades. Maybe some of you can invest your life savings into meme stocks like GameStop stock or AMC stock, and you might even get lucky. But to actually make your wealth last for the future, you need to do your research and avoid investments that sound too good to be true. Number 5. This is one in which everyone makes the biggest mistake when first starting out: underestimating the magic of compound interest. Compound investing is what makes even the smallest investments large investments given enough time. The money you set aside in a savings account, mutual funds, or individual stocks earns interest. Then you earn interest on the money you originally save, plus on the interest you've already accumulated. As your savings continue to grow, you'll earn interest on a bigger and bigger pool of money. Here is something interesting. Let's say there are two friends, John and Randy. John, being the smart investor he is, he begins contributing $500 monthly into his Roth IRA every single year from age 20 until he reaches the age of 65, earning an 8% return annually. John's investment would end up equaling close to $2.5 million. Randy, on the other hand, waits 10 years and doesn't start until age 30. Randy invests the same $500 amount monthly until age 65 with the same 8% return that John is earning annually. By the time Randy reaches 65, he would barely have reached the $1 million mark. Even though the difference is only $60,000 in principal contributions and starting 10 years earlier, it accounts for almost an additional $1.5 million between the two in the long run, which is why when it comes to investing, the hardest thing is getting started. But once you've made it past that hurdle, you always wish you started sooner. The more time that passes allows your money the opportunity to reap the benefits of the magic known as compound interest. Number 6. This all ties into focusing on the bigger picture. Every day, there are tons of news outlets, articles, and online videos of people talking about how the market is going to crash and why you shouldn't invest into the stock market. A wise investor knows that it's almost impossible to time the market, and attempting to do so will only hurt your investments as the years go by. Those who try to time the market usually end up behind investors who just remain invested. We all know that 90% of day traders lose money. The odds really aren't in your favor. It's better to just do your own research and invest for a long-term outlook. Doing some further research, You should stay invested for the long term because missing just the few best days in the stock market will cause you to miss out on big investment returns. Another reason why it's a good idea to stay invested is that since the inception of the S&P 500, there's never been a 14-year period where the stock market has lost money. Even the chance that someone would have a negative return in any holding period longer than 7 years is 1 in 10. This phenomenon is sometimes called time diversification, which means that average annual returns tend to be smoother and more stable the longer you hold on to your investments. Unless you can time the market really well, which is exceedingly difficult to do, your best chance of turning out profitable is to just stay invested through periods of high volatility. Number 7, the most important piece of advice. It's interesting to understand how self-made millionaires have reached amazing levels of financial success. Most, if not all of them, have achieved this milestone through educating themselves. I enjoy educating myself through reading and research. I may not see an immediate return on this, but it's an investment that I know will surely help me later down the road. The value of reading and educating yourself is unmatched. Just like how you're utilizing this video right now, you can read online articles and books to help you summarize years worth of knowledge that you can apply to help you achieve your financial goals. Every successful individual has made financial mistakes in the past. No one can pick stock investments perfectly, no one can budget perfectly, and not everyone starts at the ideal time they'd like to. If you're starting your investment journey later on in life, I'm here to tell you that's completely fine. Everyone has their own financial journey. It's never too late to start, but it is vital you begin immediately, and more importantly, stay consistent. I hope you enjoyed today's video and maybe you got a few takeaways from this one. Make sure to leave some feedback in the comment section down below. Have a great day and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Later.